But it's not just Georgia. What about New York? Now, President Trump's legal team has got 25 days to file an appeal of the $400 million. It's like a little less than that, but that's how much it'll be with interest, and it keeps adding every day, to appeal that penalty, the civil fraud penalty. His team has asked for an additional 30 days to that 25 days. We don't know if the court will grant that or not. In a lot of cases, a court would. In this legal world that is so anti-Trump that we have seen, I'm not sure that this is going to be treated normal, and I'm not sure he's going to get the extension. And so without that, he's got to figure out to put up the collateral of about $400 million, $20 million of which is money he will never see back to get a bond like this, even if he ultimately wins the case and beats back the New York Attorney General in this a fraud case, which is a fraud case where there is no actual harm done to a party. So there was no fraud done to a bank that gave them a loan. In fact, all the banks that gave them loans said they paid back their loans. And Donald Trump, like he said, it's like they don't take our word for it when we ask for hundreds of millions of dollars in loans. They have to do their own due diligence before they hand out those kind of size loans. But in New York, it doesn't matter. You can still have to pay these giant fines. And there's a lot of questions about these fines in New York. We're going to go to the phones on them. Harry Hutchinson's joining us as well. Let's go to Nathan in Texas on line one. Hey, Nathan.
Hey, guys. I'm just extremely curious. Is there any possible way or route that the Supreme Court could get involved in that Trump fraud case that you're talking about?
So I was asked this on Newsmax this morning, Harry, because the Eighth Amendment. Like, is this cruel and unusual punishment? Because the Eighth Amendment also speaks to excessive bail and excessive fines. And is the $400 million plus interest every day, could it be considered an Eighth Amendment violation? The issue is we're not even close to getting to that place in the courts.
I think that is correct. I think there is a basis for Supreme Court intervention. If you go back in the time machine, approximately 30 years ago, the Supreme Court did intervene in a tort suit where a BMW was damaged in the amount of $1,000 worth of damage. But then the jury in Alabama awarded the physician something like $30 million in punitive damages. The Supreme Court did intervene. That was a tort suit. This is a criminal case. And so there may be a basis when the judgment is truly excessive in light of the stated crime, and certainly the Eighth Amendment might provide an avenue for recovery. The problem, of course, is that will take tons and tons of time to get before the justices of the Supreme Court. More likely than not, it would take a 2 or 3 year period. Meantime, the clock is running, and the Attorney General of New York has threatened to seize Trump's properties. So he could ultimately prevail, but he also bears the risk that he could lose a huge amount of money, and the Supreme Court might decline to take his case. The Supreme Court has taken up a number of cases involving former President Trump, and perhaps the Supreme Court will experience something called Trump fatigue.
Yeah, I mean, do you think, a lot of people have asked this, how soon, if this 30-day extension isn't granted, could we see the New York Attorney General seizing 40 Trump Wall Street, which is the building she wants?
I think she would move expeditiously because it's a political case. She is not interested, in my judgment,
45 days left if he can't post a bond.
In justice, she is interested in imposing the greatest cost possible for having the last name Trump. And so she suffers from what might be called the Trump derangement syndrome. And as a consequence, she will move, I think, to impose the maximum amount of fines, and she will do it very, very quickly. She was gifted in this particular case because she had a rogue judge who issued a rogue verdict, And this verdict is sending a signal to each and every potential investor in the state of New York. Ooh. Don't come to New York because you never know when you are likely to receive a politicized verdict.
I mean, talk about kicking you when you're down in New York, Logan. I mean, the idea here, people are now realizing that New York is one of these states, not all states have this law, that has a law that says you can take a loan out, you can repay the loan, you can be okay with the bank and the loan institution, but the state can decide that you shouldn't have gotten that loan, thus fine you hundreds of millions of dollars. And remember, for 3 years, he can't run his business.
And so much of appraisal and that whole business is so subjective. You know, you may think your home is worth X, and an appraiser comes in and says it's worth more. Here
we live in a city where it's probably quadrupled in years, and now
exactly. I live in a house now that's probably 200%.
Yeah,
what it was when I purchased it 7 years ago.
So went up 100%.
Right. So
4 years.
Yeah, and I've lived here longer, and I've seen that happen. So you have to do that on a small scale and go, well, everyone's had that appraiser walk through their house, and you're trying to have that conversation and negotiate with them and think your business is worth more than your business may be worth because you have a different kind of value than maybe the bank does. But if you all come to an agreement and then all of the payments are made, how is that even a controversy? I don't really get it at all. I think that's where the American people are right now. That is why you have people questioning whether they're going to do business in New York. I love New York. It's one of my favorite states.
About these laws
favorite places.
How flippantly, Harry, they could be applied in the sense that she has said since the beginning she wants to get Trump, and this is how she'd get Trump. And she'd get Trump by saying it wasn't that he didn't pay back his loans. It was that he lied to get them.
Yes. So this is a manufactured crime, and so we basically have a rogue attorney general bringing essentially a case before a rogue judge, leading to a rogue verdict. And Kevin O'Leary, a lead investor in New York and elsewhere.
Yeah, Mr. Wonderful from Shark Tank.
Yes, Mr. Wonderful. He has suggested that no one will invest in the state of New York going forward because the state of New York has become essentially a banana republic with respect to the investment community. And so I think the state of New York will pay a heavy cost, but that cost will be borne by the residents of the state of New York, not necessarily by the judge, not necessarily by the attorney general. She will get her pound of flesh.